Welcome to the NFL Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by lineups.com. Nate and Josh here with you guys for the conference chips this weekend. We are going to be taking a look at a couple of the player props that we each have for these games here. 3 each that we're bringing you as we do each and every week that we have NFL action. So make sure to subscribe to that channel. Plenty of NFL stuff going up on the lineups channel over there. So make sure you're checking that stuff out. Let's get right into your first look. A man who didn't quite work out last week, very, very unluckily, but you do like him on the long reception this week, which does seem very, very low for him.
Yeah, you got to know when to hold them and know when to double down in this game because Rashid Shaheed was absolutely high usage in that first half. He was on his way to a big game, and then the Seahawks just ran over the 49ers with a truck, and they did not. You need to throw the ball at any point after that. Also, a bad beat early. Not only the kick return touchdown, the 30-yard rush, but he got pulled down on a bad PI that would have probably gotten him his 25 yards that he needed here. He's going to be an explosive playmaker against a Rams defense that's really struggled to defend explosive plays. They've allowed the 6th highest rate since week 12. They were elite before that, but they've suddenly, that back end has suddenly sprung a ton of leaks. Also, really no way that the Seahawks blow out the Rams the way they blew out the 49ers. I just don't believe that Sean McVay and company can be dispatched that easily, as good as the Seahawks defense has been. But the same theory applies that Rashid Shaheed acquired at the trade deadline, never got an extra week to work with Darnold and with the OC and everything behind the scenes and get integrated as a full-time player. And then he was in that playoff game last week. Absolutely looked like a full-time player. He was ramping up towards the end of the regular season, had long catches in weeks 14 and 15, did not get there against the Rams in week 16, but the usage is encouraging. 36 snaps, 23 routes. And in that game, the Rams sold out on JSN. They'll probably do that again. So somebody else is going to have to make a play. And this guy clearly proved last week that he can make plays in a variety of ways.
Yeah, 100%. Just like every way could have gone wrong. Can't get the kick return yards added to the receiving, any of that stuff. Then they use him in the trick stuff there with the rush and end arounds. But I still think that he's going to be high usage, and that's what you're chasing here, man. It's like I know that he's going to be involved, and that's what we're looking for in these types of games. So speaking of being involved, usage should be very high once again for Kyren Williams, and we're getting a pretty decent price on the rush and receiving here, mostly because it's pretty hard to run on the Seahawks rush defense, but we definitely have some holes that you can pick at. It's elite. It's not like impenetrable. And you looked at the way that Kyren hit them twice in the season, 12 for 91 in that first one, then 23 to get 70 rushing yards in the second game there. But total of 4 receptions, 20 yards in those 2 matchups. Seahawks do allow the most receptions to running backs this season. Definitely a funnel to make things go outside that way, outside the numbers when they're running those flat routes. And Kyren has been used more in general and as a receiver in big games and especially in the playoffs, which you obviously consider that. So if you look at the way that he's been used in the last 2, right, since they've been playing Kyren versus Blake Corum in the backup, it's really a big snap difference at this point. It's just clearly starter versus backup, where it was even maybe towards the middle of the season, it started to even out a bit to save Kyren for these exact moments, and that's played out. He's outsnapped him 48-28 in the playoffs, and at Chicago specifically, 25 touches just compared to 6 for Blake Corum. So if you look at the last 5 games, that also just adds up to everything we're saying here, even as you include the end of the regular season. Started to ramp Kyren back up, 70% of the snaps going his way. You expect that to just be at least what he's seeing in this one as well.
Yeah, I love Kyren. He is a counterpunch for whatever the Seahawks are going to throw at the Rams, whether it's, getting him to the edge, whether it's trying to get him loose on some of these short receptions. And when Corum's in there, the offense is very predictable. But with Kyren, there's a lot more optionality. But on the other side, I don't think that the Seahawks are going to have as much success running the ball, at least not as much as the market is anticipating. To just say Zach Charbonnet's out, therefore Kenneth Walker's going for 100. This is probably going to keep creeping up towards 90, and it's just too many yards against a really solid run defense. They're still 5th in DVOA rush defense. We talked about how vulnerable the Rams are on the back end, but they have not really been that up front. And the Seahawks also dealing with injuries to left tackle Charles Cross, as well as their 2 backup tackles who could potentially fill his spot. I don't know if they're going to be able to maintain that type of success. The Rams also, probably going to be pretty aggressive, getting up on the line of scrimmage, daring Sam Darnold to beat them. They would love Sam Darnold to take some deep dropbacks and make some mistakes. And Charbonnet's backup is George Halani. He's practicing in full. I mean, he's just going to slot into that role, probably not quite see as much work as Charbonnet, but he's going to offer another option for the Seahawks coaching staff, who doesn't really want to use Walker as a 20 carry type guy. Like he got 14 touches in this last meeting, happened to break a 55-yard touchdown on the ground. I believe the first meeting he broke like a 50-yard reception. And so, I mean, he can hit that explosive play. It's possible. The Rams have limited explosive run plays, but in general, I don't think the volume is there to say like we can rely on him getting 90 yards. And therefore, I think it's worth fading him more times than not.
Yeah, 100%. It's definitely high. You see it get that high, and you can even, like you said, potentially wait for it to get a little bit higher and take it, because it's probably an overreaction in a game that, it's probably going to be a lot of punching each other in the mouth, especially with those defenses. So next look, I'm going here to the other side, and we're going to the Drake Maye under. 31.5 rush yards for Maye. And I think it might be creeping down a little bit, but 31.5 is a great number to take for him under. I mean, not something that he's incapable of doing. It's just that we've got a defense now that he's going up against in the Broncos that's just top tier at limiting the quarterback rushes, right? Through week 11, they had allowed 30 plus rushing yards twice. And then they also held Dart, Herbert, Hurts, and Mahomes all to less than 12 yards right there. And a big reason for that is that they don't really stack the box, right? So they're not really as vulnerable to guys getting outside and then running towards the sideline and picking up 6, 7, 10 yards that way via scrambles if they don't have anything on a bootleg, for example. So they give up the second lowest explosive play run rate as well. 7.5% is really, really low as they literally limit things in that side, because they have like we said, they have their linebackers in position to be able to make plays all over the field, since they don't have to always help out on coverage too much specifically. And they do run a bit more zone as well, which we'll talk about. And that's going to help them limit the stuff here for Drake Maye.
Yeah, I mean, the two times they let up 30 plus rushing yards, it was 31, and it was one to Justin Fields, who all he does is run. And the other was to Dak Prescott, who's a drop back guy. And that indicates, like, if it's part of their game plan defensively and they're like, this is a rushing quarterback, then they make it their business, right? It's like, we're going to come off the edge, but we're going to make sure we don't lose contain up the middle. And Houston put that on tape last week, held Drake to 10 yards. So I would expect the Broncos to be able to do something similar with that. Marvin Mims, man, this open, talk about gaining steam, 22.5, and it was like plus 120 for 3 receptions, and that has all been nuked immediately. And it's now like 27.5. Most books probably going to keep going up because it didn't really make much sense. I mean, to ding him that much, I mean, sure, 8 catches for 93 yards is a bit of an outlier against the Bills, but it's not like we don't expect a quarter of that production from Mims. Even though Pat Bryant is going to play in this one, but that to me just like boosts Mims' matchup a little bit more, because you have Bryant and Cortland Sutton getting matched up on Gonzalez and Carlton Davis, those rangy corners. And then Mims operates on the nickel Marcus Jones, who is not elite on those guys' level. I mean, he's 99th in QBR allowed. The Pats have struggled against slot guys all year. Khalil Shakir tagged them twice. Mims could be kind of a similar mold where he catches a lot of short passes and makes some shows some yak ability. And because it's Jarrett Stidham in there, and because Sean Payton might not trust him to throw deep as much, like we might see more of those underneath throws. So yeah, it's clearly been a huge market adjustment to go from plus 115 to minus 150 for him to catch 3 balls, as people are starting to crunch these numbers. He was 9th among wide receivers in design targets, 3rd in separation, just all very quarterback friendly stuff that makes you think like, I trust this guy, even though it's the backup, and I might actually trust him more than like a Cortland Sutton who was going off with Bo Nix when those other guys got injured.
Yeah. Look at the ADOT for a guy like Cortland Sutton, and it just doesn't add up with feeling like you can trust your backup in the toughest game of the season in a spot that's going to be tough on specifically those guys on the outside, like you said. So I do see that for stuff for Marvin. Could see him easily getting this on 1 or 2 as well when you consider the yak that he's capable and has shown his career and since the playoffs started. But one more here in this game too, going over on a receiver on the other side here, the ageless in terms of Stefon Diggs, over 44.5 for the receiving yards. And it's gotten bet down a little bit from the 47.5 that we were seeing. But we are going to see Booty over there getting that tougher matchups, right? It's going to be a matchup-based look as well, where he's going to have Surtain, and it probably is going to be a little bit more of Diggs being able to beat Booty when it comes to the man coverage here. He's shown that he's better in man coverage. Broncos are running a lot of man for what teams run these days, especially 45% man rate is going to be definitely high enough to say, yeah, we can take the guy on the other side who we feel more comfortable in the matchup against this play style here. So you expect him on the road, especially for a young guy like Drake Maye. You've got the vet at wide receiver, one of the more trustworthy guys with his hands, especially in the quick routes that he is capable of running against a team that should be able to get that pass rush going. So you do like Diggs to come back on. I'm doing this on purpose, not really on some Diggs, and to be able to come back and come back to Drake Maye to be able to make it easier for him as he is getting a ton of pressure.
Yeah, and the key there is those digs and those in breakers are away from like the boundary where Riley Moss on one side of the field leads the league in PIs and will ruin your bet time and time again by pulling down the receiver instead of letting him have a chance to catch the ball. And that's the role Booty plays, right? I mean, he's going deep. Kyle Williams, those types of guys. Stefon Diggs is a possession receiver. He's the third down guy to pick it up. He got to 40 yards with some big catches against Houston. This secondary is a slight step down, but it's also just a different spot where, you see more man coverage. You see a tough spot on the road, and I think you go to the veteran a little bit more.
Yep, makes total sense to me as well. So best of luck. I know we'll all be watching there on Sunday. We're going to be back here with stuff for the Super Bowl and plenty of it going up on the YouTube channel as well. So make sure you are subscribed. And until we see you next, happy betting.